I want to give everybody an update on the current state of Justice Democrats. For those of you who are still unaware, the idea behind Justice Democrats is to get rid of the corporate Democrats, the establishment Democrats. Their day is done. They've already proven they are ineffectual. On top of pushing for largely negative policies, they might be okay on social issues, but on top of pushing for pro-Wall Street, pro-military industrial complex policies, they're also just fundamentally incapable of winning when you have Donald grab him by the pussy Trump winning in the last election. When you have a majority, a Republican majority in state legislatures for governors, for the House of Representatives, for the Senate, and for, obviously, we have a Republican president. Well, that shows that you can't even win, never mind having milquetoast neoliberal backwards policies. So this is the movement to have the Bernie wing take over the Democratic Party. And one of the most important things that we push for is you have to take no corporate money and no big donor money. So that makes it so that we are beholden to the accountant and the teacher and the union guy and the cashier at the local grocery store, and we push for the policies that they want. Now, that's not the total end-all be-all solution, though, because that's just to get into power now. But then once we're in power, we fight tooth and nail to get money out of the system. And for the record, we support every avenue to do that. So Represent.us, for example, is fighting to change laws, whether they be at the state level or the local level or at the national level, where we address money in politics. That's great. We support that 100%. The ultimate solution, I think, is a constitutional amendment, because laws can just be amended or ignored or what have you, repealed. But either way, I support any and all options to get money out of politics. That's what Justice Democrats support. So we're your ally, we're on your team, and this is the movement to have the Bernie wing take over the party, get rid of the corporate Democrats, get rid of the establishment Democrats, and now's the time. As I've said before, if we don't do it, who's going to do it? If not now, when? So you got to get involved, man. Now, here are the new numbers. So far, we've raised $405,000. That's solid. You know, this is, what are we on now? 2 weeks since we launched it? About $405,000. This is regular people. Now, again, we do have an institutional disadvantage because we can't just go to a billionaire and say, hey, could you cut us a check for a lot of money? We really appreciate that. Because that is against our principles, and we understand human nature. We understand it's I scratch your back, you scratch mine. So if a billionaire cuts you a check for $1 million, guess what? They own you. This is the problem with the establishment Democrats and the corporate Democrats, is that that's how they act with corporations and billionaires. We don't do that. So we try to build this $27 at a time like Bernie Sanders. So this is a strong start. Let me give you some more, though, here. We have 2,600 nominations. This makes the movement powerful, because we're not just talking the talk, we're walking the walk. I was going to come out here after the election and give a blueprint for the Democrats. Hey, this is what you need to do. This is how you have to act. This has got to be your platform in order to actually win again. But that would have been all bark and no bite. Now we have some bite to it. So it was myself, Cenk Uygur, and you had Shoykat Chakrabarti and Zach Exley. They were top Bernie Sanders campaign officials, and they are the ones who are doing all the infrastructure work, dotting all the I's, crossing all the T's behind the scenes. They laid the groundwork. They're vetting the candidates. They're running the candidates, and they're the real heroes of what's going on here. And they have 2,600 people so far to talk to vet, to if they pass the bar, then they train, and then they're going to be the ones running for office. So we're going to have principled progressives run to take over the Democratic Party. It's just a matter of picking the right candidates who can win, because we know we all stand for the right things. You could read our platform, justicedemocrats.com. and you'll see our platform there. We stand for all those things, so it's just a matter of getting the right candidates who know what to say, when to say it, to actually get the message out there, to actually win. Because the establishment Democrats are a house of cards. They're propped up by corporate money. Once you get rid of that corporate money, these guys, what? They're oh so charismatic, all these establishment Democrats. Chuck Schumer, what a charmer he is. That's just not the case. Did you know that over 90% of the time, the political candidate in the House of Representatives who raises the most money wins? Because they could just get their name out there more. Okay, you raise the most money, you run more ads, you get your name out there more, people have familiarity with you, they go to the voting booth and they vote for you. So we're trying to run these true principled progressive candidates and have them win and have us take over the Democratic Party. But that's why we need you. That's why we need you to go to justicedemocrats.com and give your $27 because, again, we want to represent you. That's the only option. We got no interest in the corporations and the big money donors. But we need that. It's counterintuitive because we want to get money out of politics, but you need money in order to try to do that, to run the candidates to get in there to then push for it. But let me get to the number I want to focus on today, which is we have 110,000 signups so far. So what that means is there are 110,000 Justice Democrats. Now, these are people who support the movement. These are people who say we are the movement. These aren't the donors. These aren't the people who are going to run for office. Those are the other numbers. I told you how much in donations. I told you how many nominations we have. But we have 110,000 signups. Now, again, I'm not sure there's been any movement in the history of movements that in a matter of about 2 weeks had 110,000 people with it like that. I don't know. That is a number that should blow your fucking socks off. So, 110,000. But here's the deal. We need the establishment to hear us. We need them to really get scared. I got a message this morning from somebody working with Justice Democrats. They said apparently Tom Perez, the guy who's running for DNC head in Washington, has heard of Justice Democrats, and he's scared. I like getting messages like that. We discussed it the other week. Howard Dean, who used to be somewhat progressive, but then he sold out and he became a lobbyist, and he's exactly the kind of people that Justice Democrats is targeting. He brought us up on Morning Joe the other week. He said, there's this they're now learning, young people are now learning they have to organize and institutions matter, and now they're fighting for it, and it's impressive. So they're on notice. The establishment is on notice. People are going, what's this Justice Democrats thing? This is a little strange, this is a little weird, and it looks like they're actually starting to get some traction. I want those messages every single day. That's what I want. I want those kinds of messages where you go, oh, shit. Chuck Schumer just heard about it, and Chuck Schumer is scared shitless. And Chuck Schumer knows you're gunning for him. He knows you want to primary him. All these milquetoast, Mark Warner, Joe Manchin, all these Democrats who are a disgrace to the party. They need to know we're coming for them. They're Democrats who voted for Chuck Schumer. There was a time, I don't know if he maybe voted against one, but he voted for at least 4 Donald Trump appointments. As there were fluff pieces written about him in the establishment media, calling him the new hero of the left. Hero of the left, my ass cheeks. He just voted for Donald Trump's appointments. What are you talking about? They make it up as they go along. Because the Democrats are weak, and they lose. They do nothing but lose. All they do is lose, 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 no matter what. I know what I just did there. So these are the kinds of people that we're gunning for. I'm getting the messages. Hey, this one knows. This one knows. I want to get them every day. So you know what that means? That 110,000 number? What are we doing? What are you waiting for? If you haven't signed up, if you've listened to all these segments that I've done on Justice Democrats, and you haven't signed your name in support of the movement yet, what's the matter with you? What are you doing? That you don't understand how that little act sends a message and sends shockwaves through Washington, D.C. just by you signing your name in support of the movement. Now, we could talk about this all day, but I should be more specific and give you really what you're signing your name in support of. So I already mentioned the most important thing is fighting corruption and getting money out of politics and purging the party of the corporate Democrats, the establishment Democrats, the Democrats who have no problem getting all cozy and snuggling up to Big Pharma, Democrats like Cory Booker who just voted to keep drug prices higher for regular people. So that's one aspect of it, getting the money out of the system, having Democrats who take a pledge to take no corporate money and no billionaire money. But there are other aspects to it. You want to be a Justice Democrat? You have to fight for single-payer health care. The United States is the only modern nation that doesn't have universal health care. Every other modern nation has one version or another of a single-payer health care system. So you know what that means in the U.S.? We have 45,000 people that die every year because they don't have access to basic health care. That number is stunning. And that number is also 0 in Norway. It's 0 in Denmark. It's 0 in Iceland. It's 0 in Sweden. It's 0 in Canada. It's 0 in Australia. It's 0 in Britain. 45,000 here in the United States of America. This is a crisis. This is a scandal. And the mainstream media, where are you? They don't talk about this. They're too busy chasing Kanye West down with a camera crew. That's what they're doing. They can't talk about it. It's out of sight, out of mind. Who cares? It's not me that's going. And that's the other thing. The number one cause of bankruptcy in the U.S., medical bills. Medical bankruptcy is the number one cause of bankruptcy. Again, medical bankruptcies, go talk to somebody in Canada. They'll be like, wait, what? Huh? That's not a thing. What do you mean? You're going to go bankrupt because you got sick? What are you, crazy? That's the United States of America. So we are uncompromising in our position of a single-payer healthcare system. We're going to say single-payer, the Republicans are going to say, fuck off, how about we do nothing? Our response isn't like the bitch-ass corporate Democrats, yeah, how about we do your old plan and do Obamacare and do an individual mandate system and keep the private health insurance companies in control and intact. Our answer is, you want to play hardball? Step out the way, bitch. Single-payer, that's the end of the conversation. By any means necessary, we're going to get single-payer. This is what we stand for, and we fight, we don't back down. Beyond that, we fight for universal education. Again, there are countless other nations, industrial nations, even some nations that wouldn't necessarily be included in, they're, first world nation, industrial, modern, yada, yada. They're nations that put us to shame on the issue of education. We have over $1 trillion in student loan debt. We're handicapping, we're burdening an entire generation of people. How can we do that? I mean, that's insane. That's backwards. Slovenia has a universal education system. All you have to do is pay an entrance fee. Here we got people paying back their student loan debt into their elderly years, into their 70s. What kind of a sick joke is that? We're going to have the nerve to lecture the world and say we're number one. Meanwhile, Slovenia is kicking our ass when it comes to universal education. And if you think it's a crazy idea, well, then you don't understand how elementary school works in the United States. You don't understand how middle school and high school works in the United States. Now, do you? Because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about funding college like that. We have to fight to, at the very least, catch up to the rest of the modern world on these fronts. But we go further. Justice Democrats is not just about that. Justice Democrats is about making us number one again. Are we talking about actually making America great again? That's right, and we're going to do it in the relevant categories. So when Donald Trump says it, he's talking about, let's be number one in deregulation. I just gutted the rest of Dodd-Frank. Let's be number one in sellouts. I just appointed Steve Mnuchin to be Treasury Secretary. He's talking about let's be number one in size of our wall on the southern border. That's the goofy shit he's talking about. Let's be number one in military spending. Guess what, Don? We already are number one. He goes, I don't care. I'm going to expand it even further. Our military spends more than the next 8 biggest nations combined. It's over 50% of our discretionary budget. Donald Trump says not enough. Let's spend more. That's what he means when he says make America great again. What do we mean? What do Justice Democrats mean? Let's be number one in healthcare as opposed to number 37, which is what we are according to the World Health Organization. Let's be number one in education. Let's be number one for workers. Half of the people in the U.S. make $30,000 a year or less. How sad is that? Our minimum wage is $7.25. In Australia, it's over $15 an hour. We're okay with that. We're okay with people working a full-time job and not making enough money to survive. Justice Democrats will fight tooth and nail to make the minimum wage a living wage and tie it to inflation. We're done with that. We're done with the idea of wage slavery. But these are issues this isn't even discussed. 80% of the American people want to make the minimum wage a living wage, want to raise the minimum wage. 80%. That's even the majority of Republicans. But the parties aren't pushing for it. So guess what? We're going to push for it. The whole point of Justice Democrats is to take no corporate money, no big donor money, and push for the policies that the American people actually want. We actually look at the polling data and go, that's what I'm going to push for. Why? Because we are representatives of the people. We are a medium for the policies that you want. That's the whole point of Justice Democrats. These ideas are overwhelmingly popular. Did you know? There was a poll about the war in Afghanistan done about a year ago. Only 17% of the American people still want to be involved in Afghanistan. We got a full-scale war going on. The media doesn't even talk about it. They act like we don't. Hey, you got to have a full-scale war going on. In fact, we have two, one there and one in Iraq. But we have a full-scale war in Afghanistan. The media... Somebody should look into it. Media Matters. Somebody tell me how long the CNN went without discussing Afghanistan, even though we're still at war with that country. They probably went 2 months at certain points, just not discussing Afghanistan at all. Only 17% of the American people still want to be there. That means that the war in Afghanistan is more unpopular than Vietnam was at its most unpopular point. Nobody talks about it. Nobody fights to end it. Nobody says, what are we doing? Why do we just blow trillions of dollars for no goddamn reason? Why are we nation building there when we can't even get clean water in Flint, Michigan? We can't get clean water here. Our infrastructure gets a grade of D. And you're telling me we have $7 trillion to waste in Iraq and a few trillion more in Afghanistan? What kind of a sick joke. It's like we're getting played, because we are. The establishment is playing us. So it's time to fight back. This is what Justice Democrats stands for. We get money out of politics. We fight for universal health care. We fight for universal education. We want to be number one in universal health care and education. We want to make that minimum wage a living wage. We want to end the wars. These are just a few of the things that we fight for. Go to justicedemocrats.com, read the platform, and you have to support the movement. Even if you're somebody who says, I disagree with the tactics of trying to take over the party, I'd rather try to build a third party. Look, according to our research, it's harder to build a third party. There are more institutional disadvantages that are unnecessary hurdles. But even having said that, if you want to go that route, by all means, be my guest. We're behind you because we agree on the policy. But at the very least, lend your name in support of Justice Democrats. Go to justicedemocrats.com, sign your name up in support. I want this 110,000 number to be 1 million. I want it to be 1 million, and I want it to be 1 million soon. And I will stop at nothing to get to that point, because the more numbers we get, the more the establishment takes notice. The more the establishment takes notice, the more they're going to bend to our will and our messaging, and the more likely it is we get more press coverage, we run more candidates, and we're more likely to win. So become part of this movement. Become part of this wave. Sign your name in support at justicedemocrats.com. Let's do this thing. Nobody's coming to save us. We have to save ourselves, and that's exactly what this is about.